Bill's attorney at law. She won't take no for an answer.
All right, everyone, we are live right now with Miss Missy Parsons. Missy is our new Social Security, what is your official title now?
Social Security Operations Manager.
Awesome. How long have you been with the firm, Missy?
I've been with the firm a little over 7 years.
7 years, and if I'm not mistaken, you are a non-attorney rep as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Tell everyone like what is involved in like the studying for that and how long it took you to prepare and all that.
The non-attorney rep exam is an exam that specializes solely in Social Security. So there's a lot of studying to prepare to learn all the laws, all the processes, procedures, rulings, and it's a pretty lengthy exam. I think it's about 3 hours long, total of 50 questions, and you have to have a certain score to pass.
I will say this, Missy's always been a wealth of knowledge for me. Anytime I have questions when I'm writing a blog or just want to know something new about Social Security, she's often one of the first people I go to, and she always has the answers. So I've always enjoyed working with her myself. We want to encourage everyone today, if you have a question, just to put it down here in the comments, and if we have a chance, we'll get to it. We've had a few people submit questions already, so we're just going to play it loose here and just answer some of your questions that have already been submitted. Now, Missy, one of the questions I've always had, just because I'm not as familiar with the Social Security process myself, is what is a disability examiner? I've heard you talk about it, I've heard Lauren, Jan talk about it, but I personally don't really have an idea of what a disability examiner is or does.
Okay. A disability examiner works for the state agency known as DDS, Disability Determination Section. And disability examiners are assigned cases at the initial and the reconsideration levels. The examiner will gather all of your medical records. As some of you, if you've been through the process, know that there are forms to fill out regarding your work and your past job descriptions, sometimes your daily activities. There's like a pain questionnaire. They gather anything that's needed along those types of lines, and then they will kind of package it all together and send it over to the medical staff at the agency to kind of give limitations and help in the decision process. But if normally we communicate with the disability examiners, sometimes they call us needing information, but if someone does not have a representative, that's who they will be talking to at DDS throughout the initial and reconsideration levels.
Okay, great. Now, you mentioned something there that I've also often wondered about. You mentioned reconsideration. What is that? Because I've heard it used a few times, but it's one of those things where I thought I had an idea of what it was, but then I read through the book that we offer people, and it's like I thought maybe I wasn't quite sure. So what is reconsideration?
Well, if I kind of look at the processes in stages, when you first apply, we commonly refer to that as the initial level. And again, that's where you're assigned the disability examiner, and they gather all of your initial medical records and make a decision. If you are denied at that level, you then file an appeal. Once the appeal is filed, you go to what's called the reconsideration level. Again, it goes to the state agency, but you are assigned to a different disability examiner. The examiner at that point will gather any updated records that are not currently in the file. Sometimes they might send you out for an exam if that's needed. But it's a new set of eyes, kind of like a second look at it from a different person to make sure that the decision that was made at the initial level was correct.
Great. And we have several people watching right now. Once again, if you have any questions about Social Security processes or about hearings or just anything in general, feel free to write it in the comment section. We might be able to get to it and answer your question for you. Yeah. Now, one thing that I actually had someone on Facebook ask me this recently, and it's one of those things where you hear, if you're down in the office, you hear the term quite a bit, compassionate allowance. What is that?
Sure. Compassionate allowance, there's a list of conditions that if someone is diagnosed with one of those conditions, it's a way for Social Security to kind of expedite that claimant through the process because they've been diagnosed with this condition. Social Security actually, if you get on their website, you can look up the whole list of things, and they actually have it in there by alphabet. But it is a way to kind of expedite those claimants through the process a lot faster, and that could be for illnesses such as different types of cancers or ALS or pretty severe diagnoses that potentially could result even, in death, that something needs to be done quickly.
But now it's safe to say that not every type of cancer will qualify for that, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It depends on stages and types of cancer and things like that. It's really too much to go into here, but if you go to their website, you can certainly pull up that list to see if your condition is on there.
Okay. We actually just had a question pop up here, and I know you know the answer to this one because it's one of our most popular questions.
Okay.
Kim Layfield, thanks so much for asking. How long does a Social Security case take generally?
Generally, overall, you're looking at probably 2 to 3 years. But again, like I mentioned earlier, if you weren't on here, you kind of look at the process in steps and stages. And you have your initial stage, your reconsideration stage, and your hearing level stage. We do kind of relay those time frames per stage. But if you just go to one hearing and it's over there, you're looking at 2 to 3 years. Now, to break that down even further, at the initial level, on average, it takes about 4 to 6 months to make the decision, and a lot of that depends on how many medical records you have to get, how fast the provider is in submitting those medical records, following the request. If they have to send you to an appointment, how soon can they get that appointment? There's many factors, but they do work diligently to try to get that as quickly as possible. The reconsideration level, again, is another 4 to 6 months on average, depending on how many new sets of records that are needed. And then the hearing level, that seems to be the longest wait up until that point. On average, you're looking at 18 to 24 months. From the time the hearing is requested. It's not from the time you initially applied, which seems to be some people, common misconception on that, but it is 18 to 24 months from the time the hearing is requested. And a lot of times you already have 6 months to a year since you applied, so then you add another 18 to 24 months onto that, and it makes for a very, very long wait. Now, if you're denied a hearing and it goes farther, you go onto different levels, the appeals council level, and it's anywhere from 12 to 18 months. And then if you go into a federal court level, you're looking at 12 to 18 months again from there. So it can be a very, very lengthy process. But in short, from the initial application to your first hearing, you're looking at between 2 to 3 years, depending on what state that you're in.
Okay. And Kim, thank you for that question for sure. And now, Missy, you've been here for a while. Have you seen that time increase or decrease as time's gone by?
It has certainly increased over the time that I've been here. I know back initially, it used to be maybe 15 to 18 months, and we're up to 18 to 24 months. That's largely due to the number of applicants, the number of judges. They have had some judges retire, so in different states they've had a lower number of judges than what they probably would like. But of course, if you do the math, the more cases you have and the less judges you have to hear them, the longer it's going to take to get through the process. I know here in West Virginia, one of the judges' offices did just recently hire some judges, so we're hoping that maybe that helps speed up the time frame just a little bit. But we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens.
Okay. And just to clarify one thing for us, from the time you're denied, how long is it to see a judge?
From the time you're denied at the reconsideration level?
Yeah.
By the time you're denied at the reconsideration level, of course, you have 60 days to file an appeal. So it's 18 to 24 months from the time that appeal, which is called a request for hearing, is filed.
Okay. Now, I am guilty of watching shows like Law and Order and CSI and all these shows like courtroom dramas and LA Law back in the day.
Judge Judy.
Judge Judy, and everything was settled within 30 minutes.
Right.
And you go in for your hearing and, okay, we know what the decision is by the end of the day. If you go in for a hearing with, for Social Security, will you know the decision by the end of the hearing?
Not normally.
Oh.
Sometimes you can get an indication, but the judges typically do not say at the end of the hearing, yes, you're approved, or no, you're not. So, like I said, rarely will you know for sure. Nothing is official, and this is what I always tell people. Nothing is official, no matter how good of a feeling you have. Nothing is official until it comes in writing. Now, given that the judge closes the hearing that day, no additional evidence is needed, the hearing isn't continued or anything like that, it typically takes 30 to 60 days on average. Again, these are all average time frames. The judge isn't required to have the decision out within a certain amount of time, but on average it's 30 to 60 days that you will have that written decision, and then that's when you can really kind of know for sure what the decision is.
Well, speaking of hearings, and with we're doing this live on Facebook right now. We have an iPad set up, and it's all done over the internet. Are hearings done this way, or are they still done in person?
Oh, they're done both ways, actually.
Really? Nobody know that.
A lot of them nowadays you will see by video. It definitely reduces the amount of travel time for the judges and things like that. For instance, if you live here in Parkersburg, you're not going to have to drive all the way to Charleston for a hearing. You can actually come right here. We have a hearing location in Parkersburg where the judge will be on a TV screen. The judge can see and hear the claimant, and the claimant can see and hear the judge, as well as any experts that are involved in the hearing as well. But certainly if someone wants an in-person hearing, you can object to a video hearing and request that it be done in person. And then the judge, like if you were from Parkersburg, the judge would have to come to Parkersburg, or you would have to drive to Charleston.
Okay. Now, you've attended hearings. Have you done one that's done via video conference before?
Yes.
Is it comfortable, or would you, like, if you were in that situation, which one would you prefer?
It would depend on, I think, number one, the conditions that you have, whether or not it's, is it going to be beneficial for the judge to physically see you versus see you on a TV screen? And it really depends on your own personal preference. But to me, the hearings are pretty laid back. It's definitely nothing like Judge Judy.
Yes.
It's not as maybe formal as you think. You do raise your right hand and swear in and things like that, but it's not something that you have to get up and walk and stand on a witness stand, or a lot of times you're just sitting at a table and the judge is asking you questions back and forth. You do have to talk into a microphone because the hearings are recorded, but the whole atmosphere, I think, is a little bit more laid back than what sometimes people anticipate it to be. Of course, it can still be nerve-wracking, and I certainly understand that, but it's definitely not going to be anything like Judge Judy or
no one's objecting, or something like a few good men, like you can't handle the truth.
Exactly.
It's going to be a lot more laid back.
Yeah.
That's what, we all forget that from time to time. Hollywood glorifies everything, but there's not really any TV shows about Social Security, disability, or Social Security hearings yet. I'm sure that's coming someday.
You can actually, I think there is, if you want to Google like a mock Social Security hearing, I know there are YouTube videos out there sometimes where people have put together mock hearings, so that if you wanted to get on there to see what it was like, it would give you an idea.
And Kim, we definitely are happy to do this, and Kim, just to thank you for what we're doing today. We understand that in her husband's been waiting 2 years. It's frustrating. The waiting's one of the hardest things we do. It's frustrating for us as well. We definitely can relate to our clients on that one for sure.
Absolutely.
We did have a question asked earlier in the week by one of our friends on Facebook. He asked if he passes away, will his spouse automatically get his benefits?
It's not automatically. It does depend on your age. They're known as widow benefits. Now, at the age, when someone hits age 60, they become entitled to widow benefits if their spouse passes away, just because they're 60. It's based on their age. But if Social Security has declared the widow disabled, there's another benefit called disabled widow benefits, and you cannot start receiving that until you're age 50. So between the ages of 50 and 60, if Social Security has declared someone disabled, you can collect the disabled widow benefits. But at the age of 60 is when it's just straight widow benefits based on your age.
Do you have to be declared disabled within a certain amount of time of the death?
Yes, it is within 7 years. If as long as Social Security not necessarily declares you disabled, it's not the day they say yes you are disabled, but the date that Social Security feels your disability had started, and a lot of times that's a past date. So, for instance, if my spouse passed away in 2005, and Social Security says that I became disabled in 2010, then I would be eligible for disabled widow benefits.
Okay. Got one last question here I want to go over before we call it a day, unless anyone else has any questions they'd like to ask. But we were just talking about family and widow benefits and all that. Sometimes I've heard the term auxiliary benefits. What is that, and how does that pertain to a case or Social Security, or what? Or am I off base? Am I just listening to the wrong thing? Okay.
You're good. That's a good question. The auxiliary benefits are benefits for family members, and that could be children or spouse. The auxiliary benefits that only apply for individuals receiving Social Security disability benefits, not supplemental security income, not the SSI. It's not a guarantee that your children or your spouse is going to be awarded auxiliary benefits. It is an application process. So after someone is approved for disability, then you contact Social Security to start the auxiliary application, auxiliary benefit application. So you may or may not. It really depends on what your family maximum is. Everyone has an amount, your Social Security disability check amount. Now, everyone also has a family maximum, and that's what a lot of people don't know. If there's a difference between your family maximum and your check, then your family members, your children, or your spouse could be entitled to that difference. Now, that difference, if you have 3 children, would be split 3 different ways. If there's not a difference, though, there's not going to be anything for the children. A lot of times we don't have access to that information, but in the end it still requires an application with Social Security. It's not something that's automatically granted, and it is something you have to reach out to Social Security to get started.
Okay, great. Well, this has been a really informative 15-20 minutes here, and I certainly want to thank Missy for taking some time today to answer all these questions, and I know she's going to be back for more in the future. Everyone who watched, thank you so much for your questions and for participating. I do want to let you know, if you're interested in a copy of our book, send us a message on Facebook with your address, and I'll be happy to send you a copy of our Social Security Disability book. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.